So I'm really happy to welcome once again Nicolas Frankel. He was voted the best speaker last year, the best speaker in Voxxed Athens. So I think he deserves to be here again with us. And
thanks. Evkaristo. Now I have a lot of pressure. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I was lying. He just bribed me to come here for a third time, so no. Anyway, yeah, Nicolas, he recently joined Exoscale as an advocate developer. Well done, Nicolas, congratulations.
Thanks.
And he will give us his experience on Ethereum and how you can start working with it as a developer. Thank you for being with us once again.
Thank you.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks to be here for this session about Ethereum and how you can start developing with it. So yeah, thanks for the spoiler. Patroklos. So I'm Nicolas Frankel. I'm super happy to be here for the third time because before Vox Days there was another conference. I was invited by Patroklos already. Recently I changed my life. I've been before like developer for 17 years, developer, architect, what, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I was working on client side. I was doing like consulting. And 2 months ago, I quit SAP, big company, big benefits for a small startup in Switzerland called Exoscale. And what we are doing basically is we are doing cloud stuff. Before starting this talk, I have some disclaimers. First, I'm not a fintech expert. I'm not a blockchain expert. I'm not an Ethereum expert. So what I'm doing on this stage? Now, I'm just a developer. And I mean, I will tell you later, but basically, this is called starting on Ethereum, a developer's approach, because I won't tell you a lot of stuff about how you can change the world and this stuff. I want to show you how you can code and what are the benefits and the limitations of using the blockchain as a developer. The rest, I don't care. The rest is yours. You have like super good ideas. And also, if just to be sure, you won't get any money by attending the presentation. It won't make you rich just because now you can put blockchain on your resume. So what is a blockchain? Well, like stupidly, is a chain of blocks. I mean, that's not rocket science. Very quickly, this is basically the blockchain. You create the first block, and then you create the second block, and the second block references the first block with the value, and the third block references the second block. Who here is using Git? Oh, there are people not using it. Interesting. If you are using it, this is very easy. Now imagine you don't have any Git branch, any Git rebase. You are only working on master and not doing any rebase, and you are using a sort of blockchain. Like every commit references its parent. So it's very easy. There is nothing mind-blowing about it. The blockchain itself has some interesting properties. The first is that it's immutable, so no rebase, no branch, meaning once something has been written, it's here to stay. You cannot change anything. I mean, it's a ledger, so basically once you have written something in the ledger, it means it's a truth. You cannot come back and say, I changed my mind. You can only add a transaction that cancels another transaction. Second property that is interesting is that it's distributed. So basically, when you are doing Ethereum, everybody has the complete Ethereum database on his system. Everybody has the truth. Everybody knows everything about everyone. Third is that it's transparent. So you can ask, what is this transaction? And you can have the property of this transaction. So where it came from, where it went to, and what it did. Which means that most people think they will like revolutionize banking with that. I'm not sure you would be happy to show everyone your transaction history. Might be, might not be. So be careful about that. This is, I collected that at the beginning of the year. This is the top 10 cryptos by their market cap, so how much they are valued. I just want to really reinforce the fact that in general, when something belongs to you, you can touch it. You have a car, you can touch it. You have a house, you can touch it. Perhaps if you buy gold, you won't touch the gold. You will have just a nice little coupon saying that this gold belongs to you, but it's somewhere. Here we are talking about something that has no existence. Those are only bits that are written everywhere in every blockchain, which means that the value they have is only the value you give them. I'm talking about pure speculation here. Who here has Bitcoins? So, okay, a few hands. Who here has Ethereums? A few hands as well. Basically, it's the biggest Ponzi scheme in all history. I'm sorry about that. If you buy Bitcoins, it's only because you want to sell them at higher value at some point in time. Ethereum, you might be different, but Bitcoins is basically super limiting. It's just a virtual asset. I don't want to prevent you from buying them or from doing business. I'm just telling you my perception. So for me, this is just speculation. Speculation doesn't make the world better. So we can go philosophical here, but basically speculation does a lot of bad stuff. Like if you want to get rich by buying some, I don't know, oil, it's the right moment. That means that when you buy oil, that someone is desperate for oil, he will pay money for it. Here is just bits. So Bitcoin is not that interesting. Ethereum, on the other hand, might be a bit more interesting because you can actually do like coding on it. So I chose Ethereum because you can actually write code, and as a developer, I mean, it's really fun. Who here is a developer? Yeah, nearly everyone, huh? I guess. You can deploy this code that you wrote on the blockchain, and you can interact with the blockchain. Like with, sorry, you need to use JavaScript, but it's still interaction. So Ethereum is based on a Ethereum virtual machine, and basically I did something that you should never do. I just copy-pasted something on the slide, but at least I won't just like read it. You can read it for yourself. But basically, this Ethereum virtual machine is just like a database. You can think of it about like a database. And on this database, you have accounts. And there are two types of accounts. The first is the normal type of account when you think about an account, that I have a banking account, so I'm the owner of this account. And basically, it's just like a hash, a number, something that represents what I have. The other type is more interesting. It's a contract. So when you are told about those smart contracts, that's what we are talking about. Also, be very careful because the notion of smart contract depends on the blockchain technology. So here, I'm only talking in the context of Ethereum. And basically, contracts, it's code. And here, I would like to go further into the database analogy. Is basically Ethereum database doesn't do anything by itself, just like a SQL database doesn't do anything by itself. So nothing happens. But then, you can interact with the database, right? You can send like SQL request queries to like get data, or you can like send queries to update or to remove data. Here it's the same. So basically, Ethereum, you can imagine it's a database, and then you can interact with it, and you start stuff. So the really fun stuff is when you start sending interaction queries to a contract. Because the contract, since it's code, then it starts doing its own stuff. And if, I don't know if you managed to use store procedures, probably you did. It's exactly the same stuff. You can think as the Ethereum VM as a database and basically the contract as a stored procedure. So when you launch the store procedure, you do the magic. How do you do that? Well, it's like the Java virtual machine. You don't write the bytecode. You write in a higher level language, which is called Solidity. There are other types of language which are, from what I understood, not officially supported. Solidity is like the official supported language. The good stuff is that it's statically typed. It offers something like inheritance. You can have very limited kind of libraries. You can define your own type, so you can define your own model in Solidity. And it's time for a demo because I've talked enough. So the first thing that we can use is something called Remix. And Remix is quite interesting. I will just, yes, it's much better like this. Here, it's big enough for everyone to see or not? Yes? Great, thanks. So if you don't want to install anything, you can use it in the browser. You go on remixethereum.org. You already have existing code that you can run. Here, I've written a new code. And basically, even if you have never done any Solidity, it's quite readable. So I have a contract called math. So just like in Java, I cannot have functions that are attached to the namespace. I need to put an embedding object. Here, they are called contract. They are not called class. And I can define this function that takes 2 integers and return the sum. That's pretty stupid, right? The difference is, first, I need to define what version of the language I need to compile to. So here I use this version because I'm used to this version. Recently, they released version 5. I didn't read the specs, so I will use version 4 for now. Interesting stuff is basically we can name the return value. That is very interesting. So here it's an anonymous return value, but we can name the return value. That's always nice. And here you can see that I've got an interesting warning. It tells me that the function state mutability can be restricted to pure. So I don't know if there are any functional programmer in the room. Are there any functional programmers in the room? So here you can see that it's a pure function because the output is only dependent on the input. There is no side effect. And that is really fundamental in Solidity when you are interacting with Ethereum, because it means that you don't read state from the blockchain, and even more importantly, you don't write something to the blockchain. I will come back to that later. Every time you write on the blockchain, it costs you money. Costs you something. So here, I can say it's pure. And when compiling, it will optimize so that there will be better bytecode. I don't have any warning anymore. It's super funny. So what I can do now is I can run. Before running, this is pure JavaScript implementation. It doesn't interact with any blockchain whatsoever, but the steps that I need to perform need to be the same. So I have written my code, I have compiled it, it's auto-compile. What I need to do now is to deploy it or to pretend again. So what I can do is I can deploy this mad contract, and here it appears in my list of deployed contracts. Yeah. And now I can execute it. And now it's the not so fun part. It appears here. So I don't know if you see it, but you see that 5 plus 6 gave me 11. Everybody sees it, or I should increase the font? Increase, raise your hand. Yeah, people at the back, for sure. Higher, and it will be not so nice for everyone here. So basically, I've got the result. The good thing about naming return values is I can have multiple return values as well. So for example, I could return a triple. Not that great. And I can return here A, B, and A plus B. Sorry, I need to decrease the font, otherwise it will be not so great. So I can deploy this new contract. Here you can see it has a new address in the virtual memory, and I can run it again. And here I say I had 4 plus 5. It's not this one. No. Here is deployment, so yes, this one. Check. So here you see I added 4 plus 5, and I got the first argument as a return value, second argument as the return value, and the sum also. And those are named. So it might be interesting because in general you interact with the blockchain through an asynchronous call. So if you want to get the input parameters that probably you don't have anymore, it might be a good idea to return them. Any questions so far? I mean, that's not rocket science, right? It's pretty simple. You can do more. Here, I have created a much more interesting contract. I call that voting token. This is something that you can use to create your own currency on Ethereum. So the currency of Ethereum is the Ether, but basically you can create your own virtual currency. So you can create CryptoKitties of that kind of stuff. So I create a symbol, I create a total supply, and I create a map which maps an address to the number of assets of that currency that I have. That is pretty straightforward. That is very interesting that here you see that my account doesn't have anything. My account is just a hash, and to count the number of assets of these voting tokens that I have, basically it's the class that references my account number. You interact with the blockchain on Ethereum with events, so I've created events. Constructor is pretty simple, and here on line 15 you can see that basically what I'm doing is I'm saying that the balance of the creator of the contract, he will have all the assets. So if I create a voting token and I say those voting tokens, they have 20 in numbers, then the creator will have all 20. And the interesting part is when you start transferring them to other addresses. So basically, the creator will deploy the contract, will say, I want to have 20 of these assets named foo. I will get all of them, and then I can start sending them to other people so that they can play with it. I have this burn stuff, meaning that I will have destroy the asset for someone. This is not so interesting by itself, but in conjunction with the referendum, this is how you cast votes. So basically, I create a voting currency, and I create the way that you can cast your votes. So if I try to deploy them. I will have this voting token I can deploy. So the first one is a symbol. I will say, are there any English or British people in the room? Good, so I can call them Brexit because we will vote for Brexit. And let's say I have 30 token and I can deploy it. I will remove those because they are not useful anymore. So here I can say, okay, what is the symbol? Oh, the symbol is Brexit. What is the total supply? Oh, the total supply is 30. I can burn them. So I need to provide my own address. My own address is written here. Again, this is my own virtual address. And I can burn like, I don't know, 10 of them. And now normally, if I ask, there should be 20 now. Yes, it works. So here, I'm just using the JavaScript emulation. I'm not doing anything with the true blockchain. Let's go a bit further. If you want to interact with the blockchain using a graphical user interface, you've got something called the Ethereum wallet. There are multiple networks. I will probably go on with my presentation because I'm talking, but I have slides. So just to sum up, you need to provide the language version that you are using because the compiler doesn't know by default. You don't use class, you use contract for the top level stuff. You can have multiple return value. They can be named. You have the pure keyword. If you are doing neither read and write, you have like the read-only where you say you don't write. That's also very interesting. And now you want to test. So basically, I tested on a like virtual JavaScript machine, but in general, you want your code to run on a real network. And the test network that is used in general is called Rinkeby or Rinkeby. I don't know, I've never heard it. And of course, there is a production network. So this is the Ethereum wallet. And let me get back to that. So what I want to do here, I already created an account, and I want to deploy a new contract. And because I want, no thanks. No thanks. Get me back to my presentation. Yes. Because I want to be, I want to take something very simple. I will just deploy this one, the math contract. So I deploy a new contract. And here starts the big gap. It tells you how much do you want to spend to deploy the contract. It costs you to deploy. Because deploying means what? If you remember what I told you previously, a contract is on the blockchain. Contract is a stored procedure on the blockchain. So basically, by deploying a contract, you change the state of the blockchain. And not anybody can change the state of the blockchain. You have dedicated people who are called miners, who have the power, computing power to do that because they need to solve some very complex stuff that are easy to check but hard to compute. And basically, they are your brokers because they don't do it for free. They are here to earn some money. They are spending power. They probably bought or rented computing power. So basically, they need money. They want money. So here, I just deploy my math contracts. And I say, OK, I want to deploy it. Whoops. And I need to select. And depending whether you give a really good incentive or a small incentive, it might take more time. Because I'm on the test network, I don't care that much. I have a lot of money. I deploy it. And now I forgot my password, so I need to get back here. I hope it's the right one. I hope I'm connected to the network. Yes, it seemed to work. So here, it's being mined. I've sent the requests for the change, for the deployment, and I already have one confirmation. So someone already said, hey, yeah, you're good enough. You sent me money, I will do what you want. And because only one guy is not enough, I mean, we are talking about money here, we are not trusting this one guy, then probably other people will need to acknowledge that it was a good transaction. Meanwhile, if you don't have any money, if you are on the test network, basically what you can do, no, well, what you could do is that you go on this voxxed.rinkerby.io and you can beg for money. I mean, again, it's virtual money. And on the test network, it's really worthless money. They don't want to get like hacked, so you have to provide a tweet or a Google Plus post or I think a Facebook with your account ID, and then they will check and they will send you the address that you wrote into the tweet or the Google Plus stuff. I don't know. Ah, yes, finally. And of course, I don't have it anymore here. But here you send the URL to the Google Plus posts that I don't have anymore. Yeah. Demo problem. It happens. Anyway, if you want to test, if you want to have money, that's how I got this wonderful sum of 26 Ether. That's what I did. I went to the faucet and begged for money. Now I can also check the transaction here. No. And I can check, and I hope I have internet access. Please tell me I have internet access. I am tethering from my phone because the public Wi-Fi is not that great. So perhaps my tethering is also not that great. Yes. This etherscan.io, rinkerby.etherscan.io, gives you a list. I mean, if you send a hash, you can see everything that has happened, when it has happened, from where it has happened, and everything. So that's what I told you just before. This is very transparent. You can check a transaction and see a lot of stuff. Of course, you won't see any IDs. Basically, the only thing that you can have is the wallet that sent the transaction or the wallet that received the transaction. That's why some people think that it's a way to launder money. But actually, the system itself is very transparent. Everybody knows everything. The only thing that is missing is who is behind this hash. And that's an issue. But anyway. No. Yes. Now they have, everybody has confirmed. So what I can do is, normally I should be able to see the contracts here. And here is the one that I just created. And normally, I should be able to interact with it or not. That's a bit awkward. No. I cannot interact with it. That sucks. Never, ever update the interface before having a demo. So normally, I should be able to interact with it, and I don't know what happened here. The third one, yeah. Yes. Thank you very much. Why doesn't it work with the other one? I have no clue, or it took some time for the stuff to appear. Sorry about that. So here I can run my contract, and you can see here that it's done in real time. So this is the way that basically you can try your contract on a test network, and the test network should be pretty close to what you want to achieve. However, it's not really the way we want to use because we are engineers, and basically here we tested nothing, and we deployed with a graphical user interface, and that really sucks. So if you want to be a real engineer, to be a real developer, that is missing. The good thing is that you've got a framework for that. It's not provided by Ethereum. It's called Truffle. And Truffle is a JavaScript framework. So if you hate JavaScript, if you're allergic to JavaScript, I'm really sorry. If you want to interact with the blockchain, everything is JavaScript. So the good thing about a framework is that it enforces a structure. So you can have your project, and every Truffle project will have the same structure. So if you are a consultant going to a new customer on a new project, it's very easy to find what you're searching for. It's available as an NPM package, so NPM install blah, blah, blah. And it's also, and that's very interesting, provides a local network. So basically, you can use Truffle to create your own local blockchain when you're running your tests. Let's do that. So here, just to show you, this is Geth, which is the software that synchronizes the state of the blockchain on my computer. I have it running in the background. So every transaction that you have seen here is basically what I did. So now I want to start doing stuff. So for example, I want to development, just need to remember, console. So Truffle console will basically start the Truffle framework and give me something with which I can work. If you want to exit it, you can double click like that, double Control C. You can also type Truffle develop. That is also interesting because it gives you your own private local blockchain. So if it costs you nothing, it's not Rinkerby, it's just for usage. One easy stuff to check is, for example, to see the accounts that you have configured. And here you have all those accounts that are configured. Let's say that I want to know the balance of my account. I've created a JavaScript, I can show it later. I will execute it, and it can tell me, okay, I am super rich. Right now, I have 100 ethers. Where is this balance.js? I will increase the font a bit. Good enough? So if you want to create such a script, you need to respect what Truffle is expecting. So modules.export equal callback, and here you've got this function with an arrow. That is what is expected by Truffle. And you don't forget to call callback at the end. And the rest is just pure standard JavaScript. Of course, you have to know the API. So basically here, I'm using the first account that I find, and I'm saying, hey, the account has that data address, and then I'm trying to get the balance, and then I'm converting from Waze, which is a unit of gas. I mean, it's just conversion of units, and I'm saying the balance is that in Ether. So this is super, super straightforward. Because I'm on my own private local blockchain, I have 100 ethers. Of course, I don't have the 26 that I showed you previously because it's not the same network. And now what we can do is we can execute our tests. And in order to do that, this is what happens. And this is super, super easy. I just execute the whole test suite. I probably have no time to show you exactly the test, but basically those are just simple JavaScript Mocha tests. This is fine, everything works, but this is not true deployment on the test network. So what we can do is, now we use Truffle console, and now I'm connected to the underlying blockchain, the Rinkerby network. And if I ask the list of accounts now, I might have a different result. There is only one account. It's the same account that is shown, where is it shown? Wallet is shown here. So now I'm sure that I'm on the Rinkerby network because here the wallet is on the Rinkerby network. Again, if we try to get the balance, now I should have something like 26 something. But you see that it takes a bit of time because now I'm interacting with the network. Now if I do tests, it will fail. Why? Because I'm doing something that takes money. I'm trying to deploy the contract first. I cannot just test. The first step is to deploy the contract. So I need to spend money. And right now I cannot spend money because I'm not authentified. So the first thing that I need to do when you try to do that is to unlock your account. You can say for how long. And then you can test it again. And now spoiler, it won't work. Because I've been super lazy. I didn't check why it didn't work, but the spoiler is that it doesn't work in the end. Probably because I didn't provision the contract with enough money. When you deploy a contract on the blockchain and you need it to update the state of the blockchain, it itself needs money to do it. Otherwise, it will fail. It will take a lot of time. So, you can read my blog, you can follow me on Twitter, and on this address, you will find the stuff that I've demoed you with the sources for the tests, the sources for the voting token, the sources for the referendum contract. Is there any question?
We have time to get one or two questions. Strato.
Hello. Any alternative to the wallet? Is there any online wallet we can use? Because I guess that wallet will install the whole of blockchain onto our workstations.
Which is what you want in general. But yes, there is something called MetaMask, which is a plugin. And it installs as a plugin in Chrome, and it lets you do your online stuff without installing anything.
But you suggest keeping that locally?
Sorry?
But you would suggest to keep the whole chain locally?
The problem is that if you trust your browser to keep your credentials,
yeah.
I mean, for test network, it's fine. You don't care that much. But if someone decides, has found a way to steal the credentials from the browser, you would be a bit pissed off, probably.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One more question?
Perhaps yeah.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I found your reference to a Ponzi scheme a little bit of weird. You seem to imply that real money has inherent value, like a banknote has some value or gold has some value. But that's a social contract anyway. So it was weird to hear your opinion about being a Ponzi scheme. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? Thanks.
Okay, so I'm not an historian, I'm not a philosopher, but I remember that at some point the price of money was based on gold. Basically, the government issued paper money, fiat money, because it had its counterpart in gold inside. At some point, they decided, okay, that's not useful anymore. We don't have that much gold, but we need more money. But basically, you are trusting the government. The question is, did the government ever told you, no, it's not worth as much as you think, or we cut the currency, the value of the currency by 2? It happens in some country. The country I live in, the country I work in, the country I've been in, most of them doesn't work. People trust the government because so far the government didn't betray them. I know we are in Greece and we can discuss about that, but I'm just talking about the specific context of money. Right now, what you are telling with like Bitcoin and stuff is you are trusting who to give you something in exchange. You are trusting other people willing to get the same stuff as you. You are trusting the greed of the people. That's why I'm saying it's a Ponzi scheme. It's exactly the same stuff. If you buy Bitcoins, what can get you? I mean, Bitcoin, apart from some shops that allow Bitcoins to be used to buy something, you can only get all the money out of it. So it's just an exchange value that has basically no intrinsic value, but the trust you put in it. And you have seen that, like, was it 6 months ago? I mean, the Bitcoin did like that, and everybody said, hey, I want Bitcoin, I want Bitcoin. Yeah, why? Because you wanted to speculate on it. And then it crashed. And then nobody said, I want Bitcoin anymore. I mean, it's pure speculation. For me, that doesn't improve the state of the world. I mean, it's perfectly fine if you decide to get rich by speculating. For me, it's not my thing. But Ethereum, if you can use it for coding. Perhaps it doesn't improve the state of the world as well, but at least it's fun. And because I'm a developer, I want to understand how it works. I wanted to understand how it works. Now I understood enough to say, okay, I didn't see any practical use case so far. A lot of people, I mean, if you want to create your startup, like 6 months ago, you needed to have blockchain, machine learning, stuff like that. Machine learning, you see a lot of practical application. Blockchain, not so much. It's interesting. You have it in your tool belt. The time when you have such a requirement, it's good. Otherwise, it's useless. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicolas.